Well, good morning, Wareham. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, and we have a great show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. On today's show, we have Bob Politis, who is going to be talking about the Friends of the Wareham Veterans Council. And also, we are going to take a look at one of three fruits that are native to this land, and that is cranberries. We're going to learn a little bit more about them. But first, I would like to take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show. So stay tuned, because the weather report and the news headlines are next. Sunny skies today, high at 84. Clear skies tonight with low at 62. Tomorrow, Thursday, sunshine, high at 83 and low at 62. And now let's view the weather forecast for the rest of the week. And there were a few news stories over the week, and here are the news headlines. All right, Wareham Week reports that Cape Cod Wildlife Center asked residents to use caution when driving and let turtles cross the street safely. Speeding traffic and slow-moving turtles don't mix, and many turtles are severely injured or killed on roads. The Wareham Department of Natural Resources reports an increase of turtle injuries this year. The department advised residents to never pick up turtles by their tails because they can sustain injuries. For larger turtles, such as snapping turtles, people should approach them from the back, and they can be moved by holding the back of the shell and rear legs. If possible, the turtle's front legs should be kept on the ground, like in a wheelbarrow race. People should always keep turtles moving in the same direction that they were heading. Into another news of the day, the Gatemen improved their season record this week to an impressive 9-6, sitting them ahead of every other team on the Cape Cod Baseball League West Division. On the 28th, the Gatemen won against the Chatham Angels with final scores of 7-4. Here is Griffin Butler talking about the Wareham Gatemen games that were held between June 23rd and June 26th.
Hello, Gatemen fans, and welcome to the Gatemen Update Show, hosted by me, Griffin Butler. In today's episode, we'll recap the games that took place from June 23rd to the 26th, as the Gatemen first played a doubleheader against the Orleans Firebirds, then hosted the Hyannis Harbor Hawks the next day, and then visited the Brewster Whitecaps. Let's get started. In Game 1 of the doubleheader against Orleans, the Gatemen couldn't generate much offense, only getting 4 hits in the game. Those 4 players who registered a hit were Dallas Beaver, Adrian Del Castillo, Jacob Teeter, and Matthew Rudick. The pitching in this game was outstanding for the Gatemen, as Missouri pitcher Ian Bettle pitched 5 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts. On the season, he has started 2 games pitching 9 2/3 innings with 9 strikeouts and has not allowed a run in each of his starts. He is holding opponents to a 176 batting average on this season. In Game 2, Wareham generated 6 hits, but couldn't score runs as the pitching of Orleans kept the Gatemen off the board. Bryce Elder, Trent Palmer of Jacksonville, and Ben Leeper combined for 6 innings pitched with only 1 run allowed and 5 strikeouts. In both games, the Orleans Firebirds were able to win 1-0 over the Gatemen. After those 2 losses, the Gatemen were able to get back on track with some incredible offense. On the Tuesday evening game against Hyannis, the Gatemen registered 12 hits, scoring 10 runs total against the last-place Harbor Hawks. Jacob Teeter of Florida Southern led off the second inning with a single, making it 4 straight games with a hit for himself. Mike Antico of St. John's was hit by a pitch, and then Benjamin Sims of Kansas advanced the runners to second and third on a sacrifice bunt. Matt McLain of UCLA got his first hit of the summer in a key spot, sending home a run on a single up the middle, making it 1-0. Matthew Rudick of San Diego State made it 2-0 on a sacrifice bunt. Brendan Salusi of Tulane started the game pitching 2 scoreless innings, allowing only 1 hit. William Fleming of Wake Forest then came in for the third inning, going 3 innings with 3 strikeouts and only allowing 1 run. That run occurred in the third inning on an RBI single by Anthony Serveto of Mississippi, cutting Wareham's lead to 1. Teeter and Antico opened the fourth inning with back-to-back singles. Sims advanced the runners on a sacrifice bunt just like in the second inning. McLain one-upped himself by hitting a 3-run homer over the left field fence, making it 5-1. Garrett Irvin of Arizona came in for the 6th inning to relieve Fleming and pitched 3 innings without an earned run, striking out 2. In the 6th inning, McLain advanced all the way to third from first after getting on with an error and advancing with another. Braden Ward of Washington registered his 7th RBI of the season, sending home a run on an infield single. Dallas Beaver of the University of Central Florida collected his first RBI of the summer on a single in the 8th inning, making the score 7-1. Adrian Del Castillo made it 8-1 on an RBI double. Teeter added insult to injury, making it 10-1 on a 2 RBI single. Wareham then closed out the game with a final score of 10-1. For this week's Stars of the Game, I give this one first to Jacob Teeter, who led the team with 4 hits to go along with 2 RBIs for the game. For the season, Teeter is batting .375 through 11 games with 15 hits and is tied for the team lead in RBIs with 7 with his teammate Braden Ward. Both Adrian Del Castillo and Matt McLain followed suit, registering multi-hit games of their own. Del Castillo collected an RBI while McLain registered 4 RBIs. Del Castillo is now batting .306 for the season with 5 RBIs and 1 home run, while McLain is now batting .308 with 6 RBIs and a home run. My pitching stars of the game were William Fleming and Garrett Irvin. Fleming pitched 3 innings, allowing only 1 run and registering 3 strikeouts. Irvin took over and pitched 3 innings himself with no runs and 2 strikeouts. Irvin for the season has pitched 7 innings with a 1.28 ERA with 7 strikeouts against 3 walks. He is now 2-0 on the season. Fleming on the season has pitched 6 1/3 innings with a 2.84 ERA and 7 strikeouts against 2 walks. The game scheduled for June 25th against Cotulla was canceled due to rain and will be rescheduled for July 8th at 6:45 p.m. Following this great offensive outburst against Hyannis, Wareham then faced Brewster on June 26, where the bats again came alive for the team. The Gatemen at first struggled to get up on the board for 3 innings against Cam Tringali of South Carolina, but broke through in the 4th when Jacob Teeter launched his first home run of the season over the right field fence to give Wareham a 1-0 lead. Teeter has started his impressive night with a single in the 3rd inning. He is now 15 for 29 since starting the season 0 for 10. The pitching was impressive in this game for the Gatemen as Jonathan Gates of Miami started and pitched 2 solid innings of no-run ball, allowing only 2 hits. Joseph Barron of East Stroudsburg took over for the Gatemen in the 3rd inning. The Whitecaps offense had no answer for Barron. Barron pitched 2 innings of no-hit baseball. Benjamin Sims of Kansas spoiled Tringali's own impressive start by sending a home run on a single ripped up the middle, making it 2-0. Tringali for the Whitecaps finished 4 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs and striking out 5. Brandon Fott of Bellarmine took over for Barrett in the 6th inning. Fott has been sensational so far for this season for the Gatemen. He has only allowed 2 hits, no runs in 8 innings of work for the season. Fott pitched 4 innings, allowing no hits and struck out 5 batters. The Gatemen would score again in the 7th inning with the result of 2 pass balls, allowing for Braden Ward of Washington to jog home to put Wareham up 3-0. By the 9th inning, the real damage began once Carson Coleman of Kentucky and Peyton Alford of Virginia Tech came in for the 8th inning. Tora Atsuka of San Diego hit a ground rule double, sending home 2 runs, making the score 5-0. Things went from bad to worse as Coleman loaded the bases with no outs. Teeter hit an RBI single, making it 6-0. And Cameron Guangarian of Fullerton was hit by a pitch, making it 7-0. Coleman didn't record an out, allowing 3 runs on 3 hits. Alford came in trying to keep it a 7-0 game heading into the 9th. Sims hit a 2 RBI single to left field, extending the lead to 9-0. For the icing on top, Matt McLain hit a 2 RBI triple, making the score 11-0. Alford allowed 5 runs on 4 hits. Fott was awarded the win for his 4 no-hit innings and is now 2-0 for this season. The Gatemen improved to 7-5-1 as the Brewster Whitecaps fell to 6-6-1. Wareham now has sole possession of the lead in the Western Division with 1 point more than Cotuit. Teeter finished the game going 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Sims was 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs, and McLean was 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. For my players of the game, they are Jacob Teeter, Benjamin Sims, and Brandon Fott. Teeter is producing at the plate for the Gatemen this season. Sims also is having himself a solid season, batting .357 with 3 RBIs and 10 hits. I have to say, there's not much to say about Fott, other than that he has been superb on the season, pitching 12 innings with 16 strikeouts, and now is 2-0 for the season. The Gatemen are back in action tonight against Chatham at 7 p.m. after an off day at Fenway this Thursday. Both teams are tied for first with an identical record of 7-5-1. So anticipate that this will be a highly contested game that you do not want to miss, as both these first-place teams in their divisions will battle for first in the overall standings. That concludes our programming of tonight's recap of the Gatemen's previous 3 games. Tune in for next week's episodes as we will recap tonight's matchup. Thank you all for watching and have a great evening.
And we're going to continue on with our news. Wareham officials respond to 3 cases of dog left inside a vehicle. The Wareham Department of Natural Resources reminds dog owners to not leave their pets in cars. The department's zero tolerance policy towards this violation means citation will be issued. The fine for a first offense is $150, and you're looking up to an arrest for regular violations. And the Wareham Board of Health is considering banning all flavored tobacco products, including menthol and mint-flavored cigarettes and flavored vape products. A second proposed bylaw change, which would need town meeting approval, would remove an exemption for the town smoke shops. Local businesses owners say that this change would devastate their businesses and would only push smokers to stores in neighboring towns. One bylaw change would ban the sale of menthol-flavored products with an exemption for smoke shops. The second proposed bylaw change would eliminate that exemption, meaning that all retailers, including smoke shops, would only be able to sell unflavored tobacco and vape products. There are going to be a public hearing scheduled for the 17th. That's July 17th. It's going to be on a Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. This concludes our morning news. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. Well, apart from Concord grape and blueberry, cranberries are the third native berry in Northern American region. To my surprise, I learned that there is a cranberry station right here in Wareham that has been researching cranberries to secure their vitality for the past 100 years and counting. Here is a little bit about the Cranberry Station, an affiliate of UMass Amherst College. From the bogs, the vines, to the berry, cranberries are one of the most unique fruits, and its industry influences the economy and character of southeastern Massachusetts. Cranberries are so important that there is an entire department, an entire facility dedicated just for their survival. That place is nowhere but right here in Wareham. Just off Spectacle Pond Road at One State Bog Road in East Wareham stands the UMass Cranberry Station. This affiliate of the University of Massachusetts Amherst traces back to 1911 under the guardianship of Dr. Henry Franklin. For longer than 100 years, the station has been conducting experiments and research on behalf of the cranberry industry in Massachusetts.
Our whole mission is to really provide whatever horticultural resources and solutions that the growers need in order to remain viable within this area, and to also have environmental stewardship, so that we, think about the citizens that live in this area and the impact that our industry has.
Using experiments, the center helps farmers to be flexible with the industry's demands. Currently, farmers are under pressure to produce a certain quality of berry, distinguished by color and firmness, a task that has fallen on Dr. Giverson Mupambe.
But sometimes what we've noticed in the past seasons that growers are struggling to get that color. So these plant growth regulators that we're thinking about, we're thinking specifically of abscisic acid, which has been shown to improve the anthocyanin concentration. So anthocyanin is the pigment that gives the fruit its red color.
Dr. Mupambe is searching for whether improving formation of anthocyanin may produce the right shade of redness. Furthermore, he is studying canopy management.
Because the other factor when you think about fruit colors, you need light penetration into your canopy. How much light penetration do you get in the canopy, and does that result in a more uniform coloring within the canopy? So normally if you go in the canopy and you open it up, you find that the berries at the bottom of the canopy, usually they struggle to color up, even when you have like a nice uniform red color on the top. And we think some of that has to do with the lack of light penetration into the bottom of the canopy.
There is also the challenge of climate change. Take anthocyanin, for example. The color pigment is triggered by light penetration, but mostly by cooler temperatures. Our most recent winters haven't been favorable.
I don't know if you remember last September, we probably had 6 or 7 nights. It didn't go below 70 degrees, and that's way too warm. And so what's happening is that the color doesn't develop, and the handlers want you to bring in a fruit that has a certain amount of red pigment, because that's what cranberries are known for. So you're waiting for the color development, but the longer the fruits stay out in the bog, the greater chance that they're going to lose quality, because they're going to start succumbing to fruit rot.
The abundance of rainfall also has proved irresponsible, at times flooding the vines, which can lead to fruit loss. Though irrigation is important, specifics matters, as Dr. Peter Jerenyama explains.
You can't grow a plant without water. But then the question becomes, how much water do we need to put in there? Because we have a tendency of over-irrigating. Like there's this notion
11.
that cranberry requires 1 inch of water a week, 1 inch of water per week. But that is not based on any scientific reasoning.
So Dr. Jerenyama and his colleagues have come up with something called evaporated demand, a way to determine the exact amount of water needed at a given time.
Right here, I'm carrying one of the sensors. This is called a tensiometer. You can view this like a big, a giant root in the soil. So it has a ceramic tip. So having a ceramic tip, so you put this device in the soil, and the water is going to be absorbed through the ceramic tip. And the amount of water that is taken into the cylinder will equate to a certain amount of pressure that will be recorded on a recording device. So we've come up with a relationship between stress levels based on the tension that you get in the soil. So the wetter the soils are, the lower the tension is going to be. And the drier the soils are, the greater the tension is going to be. So that's why we know when it is too wet or when it is too dry.
The center is also helping farmers harvest berries that can make the weight. Currently, the incentive starts at $4.55 to $5.50 kilogram per millimeter.
What have you seen in terms of maybe trends with pesticides? What is threatening the berry at the moment?
So our trends with pesticides have been moving away from very toxic, broad spectrum, particularly insecticides, to things that we call reduced risk, that are more targeted.
We do have some cranberry insects that are pests, and a lot of them. Because it's a native fruit, we have 25 different insect pests. He's rolled up because he's been eating cranberry all day. There's a gypsy moth there and then another cutworm. Cranberry weevil is a tiny insect that has been causing a lot of trouble this year. We do have to put on sprays to manage these insects, or they will eat all of your flowers and you will get no cranberries. So in entomology, we have 25 or 30 different insects that we're always thinking about. And there are new insects like scale. If you can imagine that you have your upright and there's something that looks like that on there, so you can't even see it unless it's under the microscope. This is a new insect that we haven't seen in 80 years. So that one's kind of cool. And right now the crawlers, little babies, are being released out of there, so that's another problem for the growers.
Why are they coming back after 80 years?
Either because there's climate change and good conditions for them, or we're not using broad spectrum pesticides anymore where we're spraying and killing everything so that there's the opening for them, or we have new varieties that are softer tissued and give them the option. We don't know.
Are there any pesticides that are good for the berry?
We do have a number of insecticides now that instead of being broad spectrum, they're specific to the insect. And yes, the one that we have, cranberry fruitworm, which is a little moth that lays its egg on the berry as it's developing, we have a new compound called Altacor that doesn't hurt bees, doesn't hurt us, but targets just that fruitworm. So we feel that that's the magic new insecticide that we have that has really helped us out. Of course, it costs about $50 an acre, so it's expensive for the growers.
The services and research conducted here are available to farmers for free. The center helps farmers connect to the bottom line on the cost saved and the money made if they choose to implement the knowledge. But lately, knowledge hasn't been enough as the industry faces substantial doubts.
Would you say the industry is flourishing?
No, not at all. The industry is very much struggling at this time because there's an oversupply of fruit, and so prices are depressed. And so it's predicted that for the majority of the industry this year, growers will be paid less per barrel than it costs them to produce that barrel. So we figure it costs maybe $25 to $30 a barrel to produce it. Growers are probably going to be paid $20 or less. So they'll actually be losing money for every barrel of cranberries that they produce.
So then they come to you and they from what you told me, the industry is struggling. They're facing an enormous amount of stress from the handlers.
Yep.
So what do they say to you?
And what do we say to them? I mean, you know, what's really hard about this industry is that we know a lot of our growers. I mean, you know, some of them are friends. At least
Growers are pushed to diversify in order to supplement their income. Currently, an area of interest is on renewable energy.
Tell me about the research when we're looking at renewable energy. How does it fit in with the cranberry bogs?
So, well, and then again, that's a great question. If you drive just down 495, you'll see that there's some windmills out there. So some of the growers are looking into wind energy, again, to supplement their farm income, which is on a downward trek, unfortunately. And then solar farms are something that some growers are looking at. There's the dual use SMART program, which the state is looking for, trying to provide some ways for farms to diversify so they can have alternate forms of income. So that's one way. It's still very much in a fledgling state. You know, there are not any cranberry projects yet where they're still trying to grow cranberries with the solar panels on top of them.
To briefly summarize the UMass Cranberry Center, think of it as a hospital, strictly for the cranberries. Whether you are a grower or just a consumer, there is so much to be learned about this northern native perennial berry.
So it seems like there are a lot of cool things that are happening here. I will call them miracles, but how far can your work extend? What can you not do in regards to the berry?
Well, as far as us specifically here, we don't do any genetic breeding. here. A lot of that work is going on down in New Jersey at Rutgers University or out at the University of Wisconsin. So they actually have breeding programs because, as you could imagine, with a perennial woody fruit, it's a long-term commitment to be able to do that. And so we felt, as the industry, it's expensive, and just to have it located in those two areas works well. We don't do anything that involves product development. You know, food science, we specifically don't do those kinds of things, nor anything directly related to health benefits. So we're really very horticultural, production, pest management oriented.
The center's current projects include, but not limited to, researching solar panels on cranberry bogs, using drones to map plant stress in order to evaluate irrigation techniques, understanding the biology of scale, all while keeping an eye on climate change. Hello, and thank you for being with us this morning. We are broadcasting live from our WCTV studio right here at 505 Main Street in Wareham. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather report, traffic report, and more information. And now for a moment in history, let's take a look at where we were today in history. Okay, as we mentioned on Monday, the historical Battle of Gettysburg started July 1st and ended today on July 3rd in 1863. More than 7,000 Confederates were killed or wounded in the final hour of the battle. The Union victory was the turning point of the Civil War. And on this day in 1775, George Washington drew his sword and took command of the Continental Army. He would go on to become the first U.S. president in 1789, voluntarily stepping down in 1796, setting precedents for term limit. And in pop culture, Brian Jones and Jim Morrison, two influential musicians, died on this day in 1969 and 1971, respectively. Brian Jones was one of the leader of the Rolling Stones who played guitar for the band. Jim Morrison was the frontman of The Doors. Both musicians were aged 27 years old when they passed away. For today's birthday goes to Andrea Barber, the actress who played Kimmy Gibbler in the show Full House. She turns 43 years old today. We do not have a show on Friday, and therefore here is Today in History for July 5th. Well, that's all for Today in History segment. To learn more cool historical facts, please go online under history.com. We'll be right back with more. The coffee segment is next. But first, Stephen Miller goes over this month's book picks.
Welcome to our first installment of July's Checkout of the Week from the Wareham Free Library. This week, we're going to highlight books that our book clubs are reading this month. Our first book is Homicide in Hardcover by Kate Carlisle, the book that our mystery book club is reading this month. When Surgeon Adam Karavosky leaves Detective Brooklyn Wainwright the cryptic message, "Remember the devil," and a priceless copy of Goethe's Faust in a pool of his own blood, it's up to her to figure out who the murderer is so she can clear her own name. This month, the Friday Fiction Book Club will be reading Grief Cottage by Gail Goodwin. When 11-year-old Marcus is sent to live with his great aunt on a remote island in South Carolina, he becomes intrigued with a mysterious cottage where a boy and his parents disappeared 50 years before. When Marcus begins to visit the cottage daily, a ghost of the boy appears and Marcus begins to court the ghost, never sure whether the ghost's intentions are friendly or sinister. Lastly, the nonfiction book club pick is Ages for Hawk by Helen MacDonald. MacDonald recounts the story of how she adopted and raised a young goshawk to help her cope with her father's death. The book was among the top 25 lists for 17 different publications, and it was named to the New York Times bestseller book of the year list. If you're interested in joining our popular mystery book club, they meet on the second Thursday of the month at the main library. The Friday Fiction Book Club meets on the third Friday of each month at the Spinney Library, and the Nonfiction Book Club meets on the fourth Thursday of each month at the main library. If you'd like to join one of our book clubs, you can pick up any of these books at the circulation desk of the main library, where copies are available in regular print, large type, and audiobook.
And welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is the coffee segment. My guest today is Bob Paulides, who is here to continue our discussion about the Friends of the Wareham Veterans Council. Welcome.
I thought it was about affordable housing.
Oh yeah, well you are.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think they heard you whispering. Well, the
All right.
affordable housing is still, it's the Friends, right?
Yeah.
Was it done under the Friends?
No. And
Oh.
they spelt my name wrong up there
Okay.
on the TV.
Would have to take care of that.
Yeah, okay.
Bob's last name. Okay, so something remarkable happened during last, was the last town meeting?
Springtown meeting.
Yes,
yeah.
where you, in addition to the CPC organization, you ended up securing housing for seniors in this town.
Right.
All right, so tell us a little bit about that project, how it got started, and the endeavors that it took.
Well, for the past several years, with the encouragement of the Community Preservation Committee, Sandy Slavin, the chair, and Angela Dunham, the chair before that, and the current members, they encouraged us to apply for funds to provide affordable housing in the town. The town has a need for affordable housing. There's a lot of homeless people in the town. There's a lot of people who can't afford to live with the taxes in the town. So based on that encouragement, we applied a few years back, spring town meeting, April, fall town meeting, annual town meeting, special town meeting. And we were seeking at one time as much as $950,000 or $60,000 for 6 units of affordable housing, 3 duplexes. And we were advised that that wasn't going to receive enough support from the Finance Committee, the selectmen, and so forth. So we withdrew that article on the premise that they were going to support a smaller amount of money in a smaller number of units. So this year again, last year again, with the encouragement and the help of the Community Preservation Committee, we applied for 4 units of affordable senior housing to be located on the property, on the Wareham Housing Authority property in Agawam Village. It's about $650,000. There'll be 2 duplexes, 4 units total. The units, we're already got the drawing boards. We will have, for the 4 units, it'll be truly affordable housing as only a housing authority can do it, because we're public, we're tax exempt. We don't make a profit. We have no reason to make a profit. All the money we make is used to pay for the housing, all the utilities, the administrative costs related to housing, you know, trash, sewer, water, snow removal, etc. So we, based on our annual operating cost per unit for the fiscal year ending 2018, 19's not over yet, or it is over, but we won't have our finances together for a while. But based on our per unit cost to operate the 104 units of housing units we have, but both at Agawam and Redwood, and we have another 70 units of what they call leased housing, but it's under the state MRVP, Mass Rental Voucher Program. Our operating cost per unit would be able to cover all our maintenance costs, our administrative costs, reserves for long-term replacements, replacement reserve for larger things like roofs and other non-annual costs like replacing refrigerators, ovens, microwaves, etc., which the housing authority pays for. The tenant comes in and pays for nothing. They move in. So in renovation costs, when people move in and out, we figure we can, based on 2018's annual operating costs, to be able to rent a unit, all costs, including a $250 a year per unit payment in lieu of taxes back to the town, for less than $500 a month. That's it. So we will be looking for residents who can afford the $500 a month, because we're not going to be subsidized. So that the people have to be vetted, they have to be able to afford it, because if they don't pay, there's nobody else is going to pay for that unit. We can't charge other people more money to pay for people that don't pay, like you do in the state and the federal government with public housing. So it'll be, I think, a good add of 4 more units in public housing. The other thing we're working on is the Housing Authority will be looking to work with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, the U.S. Veterans Administration, the American Legion, Department of Communities Affairs, the local redevelopment authority to put 4 or 5 more units on the American Legion property that'll be managed by the Housing Authority on the same basis. The cost of the construction will be donated from those entities. So therefore the only cost will be to annually operate the cost with heat, light, water, sewer, electricity, etc. So we will be able to run those for the same amount. So we're talking now, we're adding almost 10 units of housing. And we'd like to work with the town to find so-called tax title property that people have abandoned their homes and they're not paying taxes. If we could work an arrangement out where we could get it for the amount of the back taxes, or CPC could give us the money to pay for the taxes, again, we'd be putting more units of affordable housing. And it's the only true, real affordable housing. All this other stuff that they're putting up, 100 units here, 100 units there, it's not really affordable. Those people are making a profit. They have big offices and high overhead in Boston or someplace else, and they're getting paid $3,000 a unit. Maybe the tenant's only paying $5,000, but it's not really truly affordable, and nobody polices those places to see that they're really doing it properly and then have the proper controls in place. They used to be, but it's not being done now. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. We have an infrastructure committee made up of Donna Bronk and Bill Lockwood, who are working with our administrator to get all the plans ready, cite the location where we can have the best location in for terms of reducing the cost of sewer hookup, water hookup, and gas hookup, and that's all part of the cost. So we think we'd be able to have this hopefully be up for the winter time.
Now, you faced a lot of opposition during this, trying to get this unit approved, these 2 units, starting with 6 units.
Yeah.
Now it's 4.
4 out of 2, right.
So it took a lot of years. It took about 4 years fighting back and forth to get it approved town meeting so they can vote on it. And even during last town meeting, you faced opposition. And I remember Selectman Peter Tattlebaum did say that maybe we can take those funds, instead of approving them, we can put them into a bigger, larger project.
Yeah.
And he's part of the Housing Redevelopment
Authority, right.
So another thing that came about that day was this confusion that whether this project is going to be part of the Housing Authority or an independent project.
Yeah.
What was that confusion about?
Well, because it's going to be, see, we own the property. There's 241 housing authorities in this Commonwealth. They're all separate independent entities, just like the town is a separate entity. The town of Wareham isn't part of the town of Marion or Mattapoisett. So we are a separate independent body. We got five directors, selectmen, like the town is independent. They got 5 directors or selectmen, and they're independent from the state. The state regulates to some degree. They set the tax rate, or they won't allow them to set the tax rate unless they approve it. The state gives the town lots and lots and lots of local aid, but they can't tell them how to run their departments and their divisions and whatever. They have a charter. We don't have a charter. We operate under the statute. If they didn't have a charter, they'd operate under the municipal finance laws, setting tax rates and doing all that stuff. So I think that they had another idea. They were working with leverage, and they were going to use $600,000, $800,000, $900,000 to bring in more. But that's down the road, and it would take longer. And again, after a while, it's like some of this stuff that gets up, it's not the same. They go bankrupt, they sell it off, and the people are in limbo, and they don't know where they stand. So it's theoretically affordable, but not truly affordable.
Okay.
So we have all those independent housing authorities. 60 years ago, Wareham saw the need for affordable housing. They went to town meeting and said, we want to create a Wareham Housing Authority under Chapter 121B of the Mass General Laws, which says it'll be run by a board of directors who will own, operate, and control the property. So the land was donated, and the reason you get tied up with the state is when you develop and you go into the development stage, the first 2 stages. The first stage is development, construction. Then after that's done, the cost becomes an asset and it goes on the books of the operating entity, and then you're in operation phase. So the state backed the housing authorities for those units with debt, general obligation bonds, or revenue bonds, which means for those 20, 30, 40 years, we're paying off the debt service on that. There's no debt service on these 4, and there's no debt service on the others ones I'm talking about. That's going to be strictly veterans housing that we have. They're small units, 500 square feet. It only will hold an individual or a couple, and the other ones these will be senior, and the others will be veterans. Now, there was some confusion about our statement of we were going to be local preference. And the whole intention of public housing as it was, if you wanted housing in Wareham, you went and got a permission from the town, you applied to the state, and it was housing for Wareham residents. They decided there was a need in Wareham, so they built the units for Wareham, 104 units. The town of Marion didn't want to do it, so they don't get to say, well, we're going to move into your units.
Yeah.
So they all have, if they have a need, they have it. If you live in Dover, you don't have it, that's good for you, but don't say you're going to come to Wareham. Get on the
So
list.
these units are going to be specifically for the Wareham residents?
Yeah.
Oh, that's one, and that's something.
That's what we want. We want
different.
local. There's plenty of need. We get 700 people on the waiting list. There's a lot of them from Wareham, and there's a lot from out of town, out of country, out of state. But since we'll be self-sufficient, we'll be able to do that more easily than if we have the hand of the government saying, "Oh, well, we paid for those buildings when we built them." But those buildings are all paid off. The debt's all gone. The only money the state gives us now is to repair and maintain the units that exist. Other than that, they're trying their best to get the units to have the feds take them over or sell them off. And but they do maintain them because they have a moral obligation to do so. So the other thing I forgot to mention is that I do appreciate at this town meeting the finance committee and the selectmen majorities, maybe unanimous on the finance, voted to support this money. And I think in the long run, it's just a misunderstanding of how the other type of housing works. They think they can get more for the buck, but it doesn't always work out that way. I've seen Mass Housing Finance Agency operate over the years. The units become a mess. Those developers try to sell them off after they make their money 20 years later, and the people are up it's like a company going bankrupt. So again,
So there is a tremendous need in the town.
Right.
Now these 4 units have been approved. Are you thinking that you will introduce other units, other projects in the future?
Oh yeah.
Similar, so therefore
yeah.
it can be affordable,
Self-sustaining
housing, sustainable.
for Wareham, yeah. Like I said, we'll work with the town treasurer who has a whole list of tax title property, and if it's in the right location, because you want to be in a location where the people can get the commuter bus and get to the shopping malls or the Walmart, Stop and Shop and all that sort of stuff. And the Legion is right down the street from Walmart, and now that's all growing with department stores, restaurants, and everything, and the hotel. And down here, it's close to the Wareham shopping area. So it's a win-win for the town, and you can see the results of what we've done since we took over at the Housing Authority. The buildings are being remodeled. They don't look shabby, and the property looks good, which is good for the town, because when you fix up your property, it increases the value of the property in the community, in the neighborhood, which increases the tax base, which increases the more money for the town. So it's a win-win, instead of letting it be run down by some out-of-towner.
Yeah, okay. So the CPC funds, how much was CPC money going in?
650,000.
Okay, and how much is the project costing overall? Was that the full amount?
That'll cover everything.
And there was this a notion that the longer we waited,
Oh, it keeps going up.
Yeah, keep going up.
Yeah.
So
Inflation, the tariffs from getting lumber from Canada, all this kind of stuff. We were doing just the renovations at the siding and the roofs down there. Added like $8,000 to the cost because it was to the tariffs from getting out of country lumber.
Yeah. Okay.
So it can work.
So when these people who were coming in, because you said the project, the 4 units are overseen by the Housing Authority, but they're independent, right?
Yeah. We're going to manage them. They need somebody to manage it.
Yes.
Take applications, review their applications, determine their rent, collect the rent, then pay for the annual maintenance, fixing things that need to be replaced. We'll use the same staff that we have now. We may add a part-time person or something, but those costs that now these people are spending, or that time and effort and money that we spend on repairs, maintenance, administrative costs for those 4 units will be part of the cost for those 4 units in that rent. It's not going to, it's because we, like I said, we're not subsidizing them with from the rent from the other 104 units that live in Agawam and Redwood. It's strictly self-sufficient, self-sustaining.
Okay. Now, will any part of that rent go back to the town since CPC is the one who funded for the project?
Yeah, the only part of the rent is that we, in our proposal, we agreed to give them $250 a year per unit. That's $1,000 we'll give back to the town as a payment in lieu of taxes. Pilot, they call it. So that was another thing. We figured the town's giving us some money, so in consideration for that money, we'll give them payment in lieu of taxes, and we'll also house Wareham residents who spent their lives here, part of the fabric of the community, paid taxes here, and now they should have a place to live here.
What is the time frame we're looking at?
I said, like I indicated before, we hope to have it up and done by the winter time.
By winter time this winter? Wow. Yeah. So what's the
we've been looking at modular homes.
Okay.
And we've talked to some people that build good stuff, and they never build public housing, but they build, high-priced stuff on the waterfront and the Cape and on the Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. But they've already refigured it to the type of material and equipment that we have. It'll blend in with the units there. It's not going to be different colors and different sizes. It's going to blend in with those duplexes down in Agawam. They'll be just like a similar roof, similar face, similar windows. It'll be energy efficient, and because we're not going to have granite and marble and all that other stuff in hardwood floors and expensive stuff, it'll be more moderate cost and more moderate price rent.
All right. So what's the selection process looking like? You said that residents of Wareham get first preference. But what are the other factors you're looking at?
Well, they apply. People will put a thing out that says this is what we got, 4 units. This is how much it's going to cost, and you need to be able to have an income capable of a retirement income or disability or something to be able to afford the rent. This is what the rent will be. Say, let's for instance say for $485. That's what it is. So they come in and they demonstrate the ability to pay, and then we demonstrate the need. Who's got the most need? If one of them is homeless, or they burnt out, or they get kicked out of their house by a landlord, or whatever, there'll be priority listing, and veterans, disability, that sort of thing.
All right.
Then healthy young people like you have got no shot.
Now, speaking of that, are you thinking of maybe making housing for young people? Because we do have them.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. The clergy, I talked to the clergy in town, and because they do this Nights of Hospitality, and they see all these people coming in during the winter. They said, the town needs more affordable housing. I said, I agree with you. And they said, then they just say, go get it, But we would like to do that. And when we do the property, like I said, 5 units at the house, that I envisioned for the American Legion property, would have 3 buildings.
Okay.
2 of them would be a duplex, 2 units. The 3rd building would be 1 unit in a large community room where we could have Nights of Hospitality and bring in disabled vets and keep them overnight. We'd have cots, we'd have refrigerated stove, oven, microwave that they can be fed and keep them. And eventually I'd like to do that with a good sized piece of property if we could find one that the town owns and have it as a Nights of Hospitality, because the churches don't have the ability to handle it all, and they want the town
to handle it,
to take care of it for them too, instead of all donated it. And because that comes out of the church's collection box to pay for the food and the rent and the beds. And I've worked those Nights of Hospitality. It's not easy. They get them all crowded in, bunk beds. I forget where the heck I was recently. And I saw the beds all double stacked.
Yes.
someplace. Where was
We
it?
do
It was
have
closing down.
We do have a wide need, and because our neighboring towns are not doing
Yeah.
enough in terms of affordable housing, so we find ourselves pulling.
Yeah, we get the demand is here because, you know, you look at some of these more affluent communities, you know, Fairhaven, Marion, Mattapoisett, whatever. I don't know what they have for
Affordable housing,
They might
and
have-
it may not be affordable. And that's the thing you
True,
were telling
yeah.
about. You may build affordable housing, but people cannot pay for
Yeah,
it.
they can't afford it, yeah, because those other entities are depending on tax credits, huge subsidies from the state and federal government. For example, the Commonwealth, all the housing authorities have about 7,000 units of state-aided housing in the state. And the state annual budget appropriation for that they give to the housing authorities is about $70 million. Now, no, I'm sorry, that's 40,000 units of state housing in the state. And the state raises taxes $70 million a year for 40,000 units. Now the state spends $215 million a year, to take care of 7,000 homeless people in the state. So I've been crying for years. I was on the committee here for prevention of homelessness in Wareham. The answer to it is where there's land on existing housing authorities, get the state to get off of that subsidy and put the money into constructing units on already owned public housing property, and take the homeless off of that and put it here, and the state will save money because they already own the land. If you own the land, like we own the land, so there's no development costs. You buy a house, you got to you either got to pay cash for the house or you got to get a mortgage. So you still got a $300,000 cost involved to pay off the interest and principal. We won't have that.
Yeah.
When we move in, start out with zero. Yeah, so
Very
it's
good.
not rocket science. Maybe it's too simple and they don't want to. They don't want to get it.
Well, you're a bulldog. You fought until you got it. Thank you so much.
I
and
cut my eye
congratulations.
teeth on this business. My eye teeth.
Well, with me was Bob Politis, who was here to discuss about the 4 approved units, affordable housing for seniors in the town of Wareham, and we are hoping to see those units open by this fall, this winter. You said.
Yeah. And when we do, everybody will know. When we converted the office into a unit this year, and people saying when we built a public housing, there was an office in the community building. But then all these big shots think they're executives and they want their own office. So they kicked out a unit, 3 people, and they converted a unit into an office. So when I came there, I said, guess what?
It's a unit.
This is a unit. It's going to be lived in. And we're going back up to the community room. So we did that. We had Susan Gifford, who's a great supporter, and a great supporter of veterans housing and so forth. And they had dedication, CPC, senators, U.S. state senator, and everything. It was a good thing, a good feeling.
Absolutely.
Brand new unit.
So we don't have a show on Friday, and we'll be back on Monday. And I just want to remind you all that there is the onset fireworks this Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Rain date is Sunday, the same day, 9 p.m. So this Saturday, the 6th, July 6th. Thank you for being there with us this morning. This episode will rebroadcasted evening at 6 p.m. and it will also go at our Wareham Community Television YouTube channel today. With that, I wish you all a wonderful 4th of July.